today's video, we're going to be talking about how to do the shoulder in on a single rein. I'm going to be riding our horse Flax in this video. He's one of our horses in training who's been in training with us for a long time. And so he's going to make this exercise look really easy, but even if you have a really green horse, you're still going to want to train them to do the shoulder in on just a single rein. When I was learning military riding, and I learned shoulder in, it was always a combination of different aids. And when we work our horses like that, that's opposition. So it would be some version of like pull on one rein and pull on the other rein so they don't overbend, kick with one leg to move their hind over, and then drive them forward. When we do this with our horses, it makes our horses' bodies work against themselves because we have all these conflicting aids. And when you work your horse like that, you can't do lateral movements in the walk because it will destroy the walk. And we actually just recently did a video on the walk and why the walk is the most important gait. When we do our aids off of a single rein, we're always working in harmony with our horses, and it's a really easy way for us to break down the issues or resistances that we see in our horses and have a good roadmap to figure out how to solve them. What the shoulder in is it's a lateral movement that was invented by De la Grenier, who was a horse master in the mid 18th century, and he wrote École de Cavalry. And he found that most horses are jammed in the shoulders, and that's why he invented the shoulder in. The shoulder in can be called the aspirin of horsemanship because if you perfect it on both of your reins, it perfectly supples the horse. What makes it a shoulder in is instead of the horse going straight on 2 tracks, they're going to be going on 3 tracks. So we're going along the rail. What that means is we're going to put their hind towards the rail, which is going to bring their shoulders to the inside. And in this case, because I'm going to the left, it means that his left hind is going to be in alignment with the right front. If the left hind is truly in alignment with the right front, that's a 3-track shoulder in because his left front is going to be on 1 track. The diagonal pair, meaning right front, left hind, is going to be on 1 track. And then his outside hind, so in this case the right hind, is going to be on its own track. If I get more angle, so if I think of the rail as a straight edge and then me coming off of that is going to be certain degrees of an angle. If I get more angle, I might take him onto a 4-track shoulder in. When you see dressage competitions and people showing, they usually do the 4-track shoulder in because it looks flashier. But we like to try to school the 3-track shoulder in because if you school the 3-track shoulder in and you get a 4-track shoulder in, it's at least a good 4-track shoulder in and the horse isn't just overbent and falling to the side. The other advantage to the 3-track shoulder in is that it strengthens the horse. The 4-track shoulder in is going to be more suppling, so it's not a disadvantage to do the 4-track shoulder in, but try to see if you can get a 3-track shoulder in. All we need to do the shoulder in is our 4 basic aids. So the reverse half halt, the half halt, the direct rein, and the indirect rein. We have a course called the Harmony in Hand course that goes into greater detail on these aids, and if you're interested on learning more about these aids, I recommend you check it out in our online academy. So since I'm going to the left, I'm going to start on a left primary rein, so I'm going to do my reverse half halt to get him started. And now I'm going along the rail, and I'm going to do a left direct rein, which brings the hind to the outside and his shoulders come to the inside, and he's moving along this track. So I can actually totally abandon my outside rein and still get a shoulder in. So I only need a single rein to get my shoulder in. Now this horse has a little bit of stiffness in the right hind, so I'm going to take him the other direction and do it on my right rein, and that's why this is a very good exercise to do with this horse, because when I do my shoulder in on the right primary, what that's going to do is shorten the left diagonal. So it means that he needs to bring his right hind more underneath him so that it goes in alignment with the left front. Now notice that I don't have a lot of angle. So what they say is that you shouldn't have more than a 45-degree angle. So here's my straight line coming off of that. About here is going to be 45 degrees. Here is 90 degrees. So when we do our shoulder in movements, part of what makes it a shoulder in is he's going to be bent away from the direction that he's going. So when I start again, you'll notice that he's going to be bent to the right, but he's going to be moving to the left. If I get too much angle and he is bent to the right and moving to the left, what will happen is he'll kind of crumple into a C shape and start to fall. And when we do that with our horses, we're just teaching them to disconnect their head from their hind end. So we want to be careful that we don't get too much angle. So let me show you what some of this looks like and what some of the common mistakes are, since I showed it to you doing it correctly. So if I have too much direct rein and put his hind too much towards the rail, now I have too much angle. So what I need to do then is a little indirect rein, and that fixes my alignment. So now I have my alignment more at like a 45-degree angle, and I go back to my shoulder in. Other common mistakes I see people make is they ask the horse for the shoulder in, but they're all the way right here by the fence. So if I ask him to move his hindquarters over right now, he's not going to be able to because there's a fence in the way. So what that means is when I take him into the shoulder in a direct rein, I have to give a little on my rein so that he feels like he can step forward and in, and giving him that space for his shoulders to move in. I'm going to go ahead and change directions again and do it on the left primary. So mostly I've been talking about the direct rein, and that's how you get the shoulder in on the rail started. And then if you have too much angle, you're going to come in with your indirect rein. But another common mistake that I see is people won't have enough half halt, and they'll get this. This is the most common thing that I see. So notice that I'm creeping off of the rail and I didn't stay along the rail. So I have to use a combination. I'm going to get him back on the rail. I have to use a combination of my aids based on what the horse is giving me to know what to do for my shoulder in. Once the horse is trained in the shoulder in, all you have to do is set up the shoulder in and then leave him alone. And see how I was able to leave him alone for a few steps and he stays in the shoulder in. And that's because he's trained. So I told him, hey, can you do a shoulder in? He said, oh yeah, no problem, I can do a shoulder in. And he stays in that shoulder in until he decides he wants to fall out of it, and then I just remind him, or I ask him to do something differently. But what I need to do is start it out with my direct rein. If I have too much angle, I need to do an indirect rein. Now what I feel on this side is resistance with him not wanting to go forward because he feels like it's challenging for that right hind. So what I could do is let him straighten out, get some more forward through my reverse half halt, direct rein to bring him into the shoulder in. And again, I only need a single rein. So you see that I can totally abandon my left rein and I can still get the shoulder in with him because everything is being done just on my right rein. And again, like I mentioned earlier, you will notice that he is bent in the direction that he, away from the direction that he is going, and that is part of what makes it a shoulder in. A common issue that riders have when they're learning to do the shoulder in, especially when you don't have a knowledgeable ground person, is they don't know if they're getting the shoulder in. So when I'm on the left rein, the way that I know that I'm getting the shoulder in is that I can feel the left hind coming under. So one of the things you can do is set your whip against that hind and be able to feel if it's stepping underneath. And other common mistake that people have is, say they're like this. So here I don't have a shoulder in, I'm just going straight along the rail. And then they'll do this big direct rein, and then they overbend the horse. And so what we want to do, the direct rein is the hardest aid for riders because it's so easy to pull. So I just do a small circle away, and then if I need to, I can support with my whip on the hind. And notice I'm supporting with my whip on the side of the hind because I'm asking him to step this left hind under more and more. So see, if I keep asking him for it, then I have the same problem. Now I have too much angle. So then I have to go into indirect rein to get my angle right again, and then he's in the shoulder in, so then I just follow him. The way that you train the horse to be able to just do the shoulder in without you doing much is that when the horse is in the shoulder in, just follow their motion. And then the horse will teach you the aids of the shoulder in. This means that someday you can just ask the horse to do, you can just pretend to do the shoulder in, and then the horse will do the shoulder in. So my big tip is, if you can't feel what's going on, use orientation points. So his shoulders are to the inside, and I can feel this inside hind stepping towards the outside front. And if I can't, I set my whip against the hind. And that can be a good thing to do with a horse that has an issue on one hind more than the other, just like he does, just to gently encourage him to try to get a little bit more of a step. So practice your shoulder ins. You can do it both in hand and under saddle. It's the same way, just with your 4 basic aids, and all you need is just a single rein, and this will teach your horse to find balance and strength. If you have more questions on the 4 basic aids, again, I would recommend checking out our online academy.